the awakening of a timeless legacy. Throughout history, Islamic civilization has stood as a beacon of wisdom, tolerance, science, and unity. From the golden domes of Baghdad's libraries to the gardens of Andalusia, Muslims across time have contributed to the elevation of knowledge, the preservation of culture, and the pursuit of peace. But in today's world of division, conflict, and misunderstanding, the call to revisit these values has grown stronger than ever before. And it is in this context that a new movement is emerging, one rooted not just in memory, but in purpose. It is the royal embrace of Islamic heritage, a conscious shift toward unity, cultural reclamation, and peace among the Muslim Ummah. In the royal halls of modern Islamic monarchies, an awakening is stirring. Kings, emirs, and sultans are revisiting the roots of their authority, not merely as rulers of territory, but as guardians of faith, culture, and dignity. This revival is not about power, it's about responsibility. The responsibility to heal, to preserve, and to lead. Nations like Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Jordan, and Malaysia are rediscovering the strength of their heritage, building bridges across sects and borders, and inviting their people to a renewed vision, a vision that champions education, unity, and interfaith respect. This shift isn't accidental. In a world scarred by war and distrust, there is growing awareness that unity must be built not through politics alone, but through shared identity. It is an identity anchored in values that are deeply Islamic: justice, mercy, knowledge, and peace. The Holy Qur'an speaks of humanity as one family, diverse in nations and tribes so that we may know one another. And now, this divine directive is inspiring a modern effort, a royal-led initiative to embrace that diversity and foster unity without erasing difference. Symbolic gestures are leading the way. Restoration of ancient mosques, sponsorship of Qur'anic learning, public celebrations of Islamic scholars and poets who once shaped the intellectual heart of the Ummah. There's a renewed pride in what it means to be Muslim, not in confrontation with others, but in harmony with all. And that pride is being expressed with diplomacy, with policy, and most importantly, with sincerity. Royal figures are beginning to stand not just as national icons, but as voices of global peace. Take, for instance, the recent declarations by monarchs who openly call for Muslim unity beyond sectarianism, who advocate for peaceful coexistence between Sunnis and Shias, between conservatives and progressives. These statements, coming from the most traditional seats of Islamic authority, carry a weight words rarely do. More than political speeches, these are symbolic acts of leadership. When a royal visits a Sufi lodge, or funds a scientific research center, or hosts a peace conference among rival clerics, it echoes louder than any government decree. It signals a shift, a return to the heart of Islam that transcends modern-day fragmentation. But what does this mean for the average Muslim across the globe, from Jakarta to Istanbul, from Cairo to Chicago? It means hope. It means witnessing the rise of a leadership model that unites instead of divides, that honors the past while preparing for the future, that understands that dignity and faith must walk hand in hand. As we continue this journey, we will explore how this royal embrace of Islamic heritage is influencing everything, from education systems to interfaith dialogues, from urban development to digital identity, and how, slowly but surely, it is becoming a movement of people as much as princes. Because at the core of this shift is a simple yet profound truth. The Muslim world does not need to be remade. It needs to be remembered. And in remembering, we rise, guardians of culture, the role of Muslim royalty. As the world grapples with growing instability, Muslim royalty is beginning to redefine its place on the global stage, not merely as stewards of territory or wealth, but as guardians of Islamic culture and identity. With centuries of lineage tying them to the Golden Age of Islam, today's monarchs and royal families are reawakening to a deeper calling. Their palaces are no longer just symbols of opulence, but are fast becoming centers of dialogue, education, and cultural revival. This transformation is particularly evident in how Islamic monarchies are embracing their roles as patrons of Islamic arts, architecture, and intellectual traditions. From the ornate calligraphy of the Ottoman courts to the geometric mastery of Moroccan mosaics, Islamic culture offers a legacy unmatched in both diversity and depth. And now, that legacy is being revived, not as museum relics, but as living inspirations. In Saudi Arabia, King Salman's cultural initiatives have poured unprecedented support into the preservation of Islamic manuscripts. the digital archiving of hadith collections, and the global promotion of Islamic art. In Jordan, King Abdullah II has actively supported Islamic scholarship and interfaith harmony, positioning Amman as a hub of moderate Islamic discourse. Morocco's royal family has made international headlines with its work in preserving Sufi traditions, restoring Andalusian heritage, and training imams for global service. This royal-led cultural renaissance is deliberate. It recognizes at the heart of any civilization is its culture, and for Muslims, that culture is inseparable from faith. Architecture becomes more than walls. It becomes a sanctuary of history. Poetry is not just literature. It's a testimony of devotion. Music, food, textiles, storytelling, all of these carry fragments of the Islamic journey, spread across continents but united in soul. But this embrace goes beyond preservation. It seeks innovation rooted in tradition. Royal-funded programs are empowering young Muslims to reinterpret Islamic heritage in modern forms. Islamic fashion houses that blend modesty with high style, tech startups translating classical Arabic texts into accessible apps, and artists weaving Qur'anic themes into digital art installations. In doing so, a quiet revolution is unfolding. One that says, Islam is not stuck in the past. It thrives in the present. One that reassures Muslim youth that they don't have to choose between being modern and being faithful. One that reclaims a narrative stolen by extremists and distorted by media bias. Crucially, this movement is also reaching beyond borders. Muslim royalty is extending invitations to international communities, opening their archives to global scholars, and participating in interfaith exhibitions. The message is clear. Islamic culture belongs to the world. It is not the property of one region, one ethnicity, or one ideology. It is a shared inheritance of humanity. And it is precisely this sense of shared ownership that builds bridges. When the king of a Muslim country hosts Christian and Jewish leaders at a Qur'an exhibition, it challenges stereotypes. When Islamic architecture is restored not just in the Middle East, but in the Balkans, Central Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa, it reminds us that the Muslim world is vast and beautifully varied. The role of royalty in this cultural revival cannot be overstated. Unlike elected leaders, who come and go, monarchs often carry historical and spiritual weight. Their support lends legitimacy. Their involvement ensures continuity. And their presence commands attention, especially in regions where religion and identity are deeply interwoven. But with that influence comes responsibility. And today, many Muslim royals are stepping up, not as rulers above their people, but as custodians walking alongside them, supporting women scholars, funding Qur'anic literacy, preserving languages and dialect that carry centuries of Islamic memory. In this new age of conscious monarchy, culture is not just a crown jewel, it's a bridge to peace, a language of unity, a path toward rediscovering what it truly means to be one ummah. Education reimagined, planting the seeds of unity. In every great Islamic revival, education has been the root of transformation. From the libraries of Timbuktu to the madrasahs of Cairo, the Muslim world once stood as the world's intellectual compass. Today, the royal embrace of Islamic heritage is reigniting that flame, reimagining education as not just a tool for development, but as a cornerstone for peaceful Muslim unity. Royal families in the Muslim world are taking bold steps to recenter knowledge at the heart of Islamic identity. Across kingdoms and emirates, there's a renewed investment in educational institutions that teach more than math and science. They teach meaning. They teach history, ethics, Quranic interpretation, philosophy, logic, and even comparative religion. These aren't the rote memorization methods of the past, nor the purely secular formats of the present. This is a balanced model, rooted in heritage, oriented toward global relevance. One shining example is the King Abdulaziz Center for World Culture in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. Often called IFRA, this royal initiative is more than a building. It's a vision. It unites art, science, Islamic heritage, and innovation in a space that inspires both spiritual and intellectual growth. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, royal-backed Islamic universities are offering degrees that combine Sharia studies with entrepreneurship, artificial intelligence, and public policy. The goal is not to create religious elites, but empowered citizens. This shift toward integrated Islamic education is not just about classrooms. It's about shaping minds that understand unity not as uniformity, but as harmony. In these institutions, students from different sects study side by side. Sunni, Shia, Ibadi, even non-Muslim students are welcomed. Curriculum designs are being carefully restructured to reflect the diversity within Islam, including underrepresented voices from African, South Asian, and Southeast Asian traditions. Royal scholars and advisors are also reviving classical works that once defined Islamic thinking. Texts from Al-Ghazali, Ibn Rushd, Rumi, Ibn Sina, and more. These aren't just names in textbooks. They are mentors from the past whose ideas are being reintroduced through podcasts, animated lectures, and interactive workshops. Young Muslims are no longer learning about their faith from reactionary voices on social media. They are getting access to thoughtful, academically grounded, spiritually uplifting content, often endorsed or facilitated by royal cultural ministries. Importantly, many of these initiatives aim to counter the wave of extremism and ignorance that has stained the global image of Islam. By encouraging critical thinking, empathy, and curiosity, royal-backed educational efforts are inoculating future generations against the lure of radicalism. The idea is simple. When people are confident in their identity, they do not fear difference. When they are grounded in truth, they cannot be manipulated by lies. Another revolutionary step in this royal-led movement is the promotion of women's education within Islamic frameworks. From Jordan's Royal Foundation for Girls Literacy to Morocco's female scholar training programs, Muslim women are being empowered not just as students, but as teachers, authors, and policymakers. This is not a Western import. It's a return to prophetic tradition. After all, the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, said, "Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim, male and female." And finally, technology is playing a crucial role. Digitized Qur'ans, AI-powered Hadith search engines, and virtual Islamic classrooms are breaking barriers of geography and class. Royals are investing in edtech platforms that bring quality Islamic education to refugee camps, remote villages, and urban slums. For the first time in centuries, a child in Ghana can study fiqh with the same tools as a scholar in Istanbul. This educational reawakening, driven by royal vision and backed by grassroots hunger for knowledge, is planting the seeds of unity deep into the soil of the Ummah. Because unity doesn't start at summits, it starts in classrooms. It grows in hearts, in homes, and in how we teach our children about themselves, their faith, and their place in the world. In this reimagined classroom, Islamic heritage becomes not just a memory, but a mission. Not just a story, but a strategy, a new diplomacy, peace through shared faith. In the age of hyperpolitics, where alliances shift with economic trends and global power struggles, there's a quiet, graceful diplomacy emerging, one rooted not in oil, not in arms, but in shared faith. Muslim royal families are now championing a new style of international engagement, what can best be described as faith-based diplomacy, and it's reshaping not only how Muslim nations relate to one another, but how they present Islam to the world. For decades, Islamic countries have been spoken of in terms of conflict, sectarian divides, and political rivalry. But today, led by a new generation of royals with global education and a deepened sense of religious responsibility, there's a change in tone and approach. Meetings are no longer just about trade and defense. They're about Qur'anic values of brotherhood, mercy, and cooperation. The most inspiring example of this diplomatic shift is seen in the Gulf. The Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, long viewed as an economic bloc, is being subtly transformed into a platform for spiritual reconnection. Royal figures are promoting inter-Gulf unity based not just on geography, but on a shared Islamic legacy. Joint Ramadan initiatives, Hajj coordination efforts, and pan-Arab cultural exchanges led by royal offices are sending a clear message. Before we are states, we are brothers in Islam. Even deeper, the concept of Ummah diplomacy is gaining traction. Royal envoys are being dispatched not only to parliaments, but to mosques, universities, and religious councils. The goal is not to dominate religious narratives, but to harmonize them across madhabs, across borders. Shura scholars meeting with Sunni leaders under royal patronage, Turkish and Arab royals co-funding educational projects, Indonesian and North African monarchs exchanging imams and teachers. This is a subtle revolution, and this unity does not end at Islam's borders. Some of the most powerful peace-building efforts by Muslim royalty have been interfaith in nature. King Mohammed VI of Morocco has made global headlines for his work protecting Jewish heritage in Morocco, including restoring synagogues and Jewish cemeteries. The Jordanian monarchy continues to lead the Amman message, a royal-endorsed initiative defining what Islam is and is not, and promoting mutual respect between faiths. These royal actions are not simply political strategies. They are acts of spiritual diplomacy. They reclaim the Islamic tradition of treaties, covenants, and respect for the people of the book. They echo the Prophet Muhammad's, PBUH, Charter of Medina, one of the earliest known constitutions, granting religious pluralism and civil rights in an Islamic state. What makes this new diplomacy powerful is its moral foundation. In a world tired of transactional politics, faith-based engagement offers something unique: sincerity. When a Muslim royal speaks about unity from a mosque pulpit, it's different than a politician reading a speech. When a crown prince funds a Qur'anic translation project in a war-torn region, it's not just aid, it's dua with dignity. This diplomacy also reaches out to diasporas. Muslim royals are recognizing the 400-plus million Muslims who live outside majority Muslim countries. From Paris to Pretoria, Toronto to Tokyo, Muslim minorities are being drawn into this greater conversation. Royal visits to mosques in the West, support for Islamic centers abroad, and open forums on Islamophobia and coexistence show that this is not just diplomacy for nations, it's for people. Of course, this approach is not without challenges. Political cynics still question the sincerity. Extremist groups still resist unity. And old rivalries do not disappear overnight. But the tone is shifting. The groundwork is being laid. And the architects are increasingly wearing crowns. Because in this new era, Muslim royalty is not just representing a country. They're representing a cause that transcends geography and ethnicity, a cause that calls back to the prophetic tradition of unity and compassion, a cause that can offer the world a new model of diplomacy, one written not in ink and contracts, but in the language of hearts joined by faith. Economics with Baraka, rebuilding prosperity through Islamic principles. As the modern Muslim world grapples with globalization, inflation, and inequality, a subtle yet profound shift is taking root, one that aligns finance and prosperity with the timeless ethics of Islam. And leading the charge in this transformation are royal families who are infusing their economic strategies with values of Baraka, divine blessing, justice, and ethical stewardship. For too long, economic systems in the Muslim world mirrored Western capitalist models: fast growth, endless consumption, and profit at any cost. But now, a return to Islamic economic philosophy is reshaping how we define success. Royals are spearheading this movement by realigning wealth generation with the higher maqasid objectives of Sharia, protection of life, intellect, religion, wealth, and lineage. In countries like the UAE, Qatar, and Malaysia, royal-endorsed Islamic finance institutions are booming, not as alternatives, but as models. Sharia-compliant banks are growing assets in the trillions globally, offering interest-free loans, ethical investment portfolios, and risk-sharing contracts. Sukuk Islamic bonds are funding everything from clean energy projects to housing for the poor. The message is clear: profit and piety can walk hand in hand. But this isn't just about financial tools, it's about culture. Across royal households, the call to revive the Islamic work ethic is gaining traction. Inspired by the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, who was a trader known for his honesty, royal-sponsored campaigns are highlighting the importance of fair trade, transparency, and accountability. It's a reminder that business is not just transactional, it's spiritual. The weighing scale is a moral scale. The customer is a trust, not a target. One of the most innovative strides in this direction is the resurrection of the waqf system. Waqf, or charitable endowments, once formed the backbone of Muslim economies, funding hospitals, schools, and public services across empires. Today, royal families in Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia are reviving waqfs not just as charities, but as sustainable economic engines. New digital waqf platforms allow Muslims worldwide to contribute to education, water access, and even green tech ventures, all in a way that earns reward and builds infrastructure. Another royal-led initiative focuses on economic justice. From Morocco to Jordan, zakat and sadaqah are being restructured into national welfare programs. Instead of fragmented, small donations, royal foundations are coordinating massive redistributive efforts, offering housing to the homeless, scholarships to the underprivileged, and debt relief for struggling families. It's not socialism, it's sunnah, and there's a growing sense that Islamic economics can offer solutions beyond Muslim borders. As global systems falter under the weight of greed and inequality, principles like no interest, ethical investing, wealth redistribution, and social responsibility are drawing international attention. Royal families are hosting forums and conferences where scholars, economists, and business leaders explore how Islamic values can fix a broken global economy. The phrase Islamic economics is no longer fringe, it's futuristic. Royalty also plays a key role in encouraging entrepreneurship, especially among youth and women. In Saudi Arabia, royal initiatives are funding halal startups and tech ventures. In Brunei and Malaysia, female-led Islamic fashion brands and ethical beauty companies are scaling globally, all under the banner of Islamic integrity. This isn't just empowering individuals, it's rewriting the global narrative of what it means to be a Muslim innovator. And then there's the spiritual side. Across royal events and economic forums, there's a conscious reintroduction of barakah, that unseen multiplier, the divine factor. It's not just about numbers. It's about impact, sustainability, and blessing. It's about wealth that builds rather than breaks, shares rather than hoards, heals rather than harms. In this royal vision of economics, gold and silver are no longer measures of power alone. They are tests of responsibility. The true currency is trust. The true asset is integrity. And the true legacy is not how much you accumulate, but how much you uplift. This is economics reimagined. This is prosperity with purpose. This is a royal path to rizq, earned ethically, spent compassionately, and shared generously. Education and enlightenment, royal guardians of knowledge and culture. In every great civilization, the heart of its endurance is its knowledge. And in Islam, seeking knowledge is not merely a right, it's a duty. Today, as the Muslim world navigates modernity, royal families are stepping forward as custodians of this sacred obligation, breathing new life into Islamic scholarship, education, and cultural preservation. This renaissance is not about nostalgia. It's about anchoring the future in the wisdom of the past. Across the Muslim world, royal-led educational revival is in full motion. From establishing cutting-edge universities to restoring ancient madrasahs, royalty is playing a transformative role in how Islamic education is delivered and preserved. These efforts recognize that our future leaders, thinkers, and reformers must be both grounded in tradition and fluent in the language of today. Take the example of the Prince Ghazal-led initiatives in Jordan, where curriculum reforms emphasize classical Islamic sciences alongside critical thinking, philosophy, and modern sciences. The goal? To produce scholars who are not only memorizing but analyzing, not only repeating but responding. Scholars capable of guiding the Ummah through the challenges of the 21st century. And this isn't limited to higher education. Royal foundations are supporting literacy programs in impoverished regions, producing children's books that teach Qur'anic values, and creating digital platforms to teach Arabic and Tajweed to children from Jakarta to Johannesburg. This democratization of knowledge ensures that learning is not a privilege of the elite, but a birthright of every Muslim. One of the most powerful aspects of this movement is the return to classical Islamic texts and heritage. Royal libraries and archives are being digitized and open to the public. Ancient manuscripts, many nearly lost to time, are being restored, translated, and studied. In Morocco, King Mohammed VI's library holds thousands of handwritten Islamic texts, now being preserved and made accessible to global scholars. These efforts are not just about preservation, they're about reconnection. A young Muslim reading Imam al-Ghazali or Ibn Khaldun is reconnecting with centuries of brilliance and beauty. But knowledge is not just intellectual, it's cultural. Royals are also leading a revival of Islamic arts, architecture, and literature. Museums under royal patronage showcase Islamic calligraphy, textiles, ceramics, and historic artifacts that tell stories of resilience, innovation, and faith. Festivals celebrating Muslim poets, thinkers, and scientists are springing up in places like Doha, Riyadh, and Kuala Lumpur. It's a reminder that the Islamic world has always been a cradle of civilization, and still is. Perhaps most importantly, this revival seeks to balance faith with pluralism. Royals understand that true Islamic knowledge promotes humility, not arrogance. It promotes coexistence, not conflict. By championing interfaith education and opening Islamic centers that welcome non-Muslims, they're showing that our tradition is not insular. It is open, compassionate, and universal. This is knowledge in the spirit of the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, who once said, "Wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Wherever they find it, they are most deserving of it." Technology plays a massive role in this transformation. Royal tech initiatives are creating Islamic apps, online courses, and AI-driven Qur'an tools. No longer do you need to be in Cairo or Mecca to access sacred knowledge. You can learn Hadith from a sheikh in your language, right from your phone. Royal efforts are decentralizing access while preserving quality. It's a global classroom with the Kaaba as its compass. At the heart of this movement is a royal understanding that ignorance is the real enemy, not any one people or nation. And the antidote to ignorance is not just information, it's illumination. It's education that nurtures character. It's culture that builds identity. It's enlightenment that returns us to our essence. The Prophet, PBUH, prayed for beneficial knowledge, LM Nafi. And today, Muslim royalty is striving to answer that prayer, turning their palaces into beacons of learning, their foundations into fountains of wisdom, and their reigns into a legacy of intellectual light. A call to unity, the crown vision of a harmonious ummah. As we reach the final segment of this journey, one truth rings louder than ever. Unity is not a luxury, it is a lifeline. In an age of division, disinformation, and distractions, Muslim unity is both a spiritual imperative and a strategic necessity. And in this sacred pursuit, royal families are stepping into a pivotal role, not as rulers of lands, but as guardians of hearts, bridging the divides of geography, sect, and history. For too long, the Muslim world has suffered from fragmentation, nation against nation, school against school, ideology against ideology. The consequences: political instability, economic underdevelopment, and the erosion of a shared identity. But a change is unfolding, led not by declarations alone, but by dignified gestures of reconciliation, unity, and vision, many of which are coming directly from royal circles. In the Gulf, royal summits once centered on economics now echo with prayers of peace in Palestine, Syria, and Yemen. Across North Africa, monarchs are reviving pan-Islamic dialogue through shared projects in education, water security, and cultural heritage. In Southeast Asia, kings and sultans are opening their arms to displaced Muslims, offering both refuge and dignity. These actions speak louder than policies. They reflect a growing understanding that an ummah divided will always remain vulnerable. But unity does not mean uniformity. Muslim royalty today understands the diversity of the ummah as a divine design. From the Maliki schools of the Maghreb to the Shafi'i traditions of Indonesia, from sunny centers in Egypt to Shu'ei hubs in Iran, the beauty lies in the spectrum, not in spite of it. Royals are calling for respectful discourse, mutual recognition, and shared platforms that uphold the Qur'anic core, and hold fast, all together, to the rope of Allah, and do not be divided. Surah Al-Imran 3:103. One profound example of this unity in action is the increasing collaboration among royal foundations across borders. From joint humanitarian missions in conflict zones to multi-nation cultural preservation projects, royal families are turning symbolism into substance. And through organizations like the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, monarchs are asserting their moral weight to steer the ummah toward collective benefit and protection of the oppressed. Spiritual unity is also taking center stage. The Hajj and Umrah seasons, once marred by political tensions, are now becoming more inclusive, with royal decrees ensuring equitable access and peaceful coexistence for pilgrims from all backgrounds. Royal-endorsed ulama councils are tackling global Muslim issues with fresh ijtihad and collaborative spirit, rather than divisive rhetoric. These efforts aren't merely about appearances. They are laying the groundwork for genuine healing of historical wounds. And there's a symbolic power at play. The sight of royals praying shoulder to shoulder with the masses, of queens attending Qur'an recitations with schoolgirls, of princes funding interfaith iftars. These images transmit a powerful message. We are one. Beyond protocol, beyond politics, we are bonded by belief, by mercy, by the Shahidah. Perhaps the most moving symbol of this unity effort is the global call for a new golden age, not defined by conquest or caliphates, but by consciousness, collaboration, and compassion. Royals, in embracing this vision are not claiming divine right. They are claiming divine responsibility, and they are inviting all of us to share in it. The dream of a unified Ummah is not just a historical memory, it is a prophetic promise. And as royal families help lay its foundation, brick by brick, heart by heart, we too are invited to be its builders, with our intentions, with our words, with our actions, because unity begins not in palaces, but in people. And when people move with purpose, when they seek knowledge with humility, when they spend with sincerity, and when they love for the sake of Allah, they create not only peace on earth, but pleasure in the heavens. This is a royal embrace. This is a sacred shift, not towards power, but towards purpose, not towards control, but towards connection, not toward dominion, but towards divine unity. The crown of the future will not rest on the head of one ruler, but on the heart of every believer who chooses unity over ego, truth over noise, and Allah over all. And in that choice, the Ummah will rise.